Hello and welcome to another episode of One Another Marriage with Dr. David and Theresa Mabry, where it is our goal to strengthen relationships, marriages, so that they can have greater satisfaction and fulfillment and greater impact on the world around them. So, we're glad you've joined us today.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this podcast where today we are going to be discussing fun. We're going to discuss intentional quality time together and having fun with that intentional quality time through date nights or date times, vacations, weekend getaways, and those types of things. So, and actually David and I are going to be sharing some of our favorite experiences with you today.
Yeah, so with this is spurred on for various reasons, and we'll go into that here shortly. But this will be a fun one because the focus is on fun today.
Yes,
and everybody can kind of have in their brains like their own quality time opportunities they've had, and
our kind of fun might not be everyone's kind of fun, but that's okay. It's figuring out what kind of fun do you and your spouse enjoy having together, and are you intentional to have that quality time? Yeah. So that's what we're talking about. But we thought it would be interesting to just kind of like unpack a little bit more of like maybe some vacation or weekend getaway experiences. Probably because, we are in July.
Yeah. Here we go.
So
and we are in July and almost out. Next week is August.
Yeah, we're almost out. So
we're almost out of
this. But
this.
summertime is one of those times where people tend to take a trip or get away in some capacity or something like that. So when you're doing those, are you planning for strategic, intentional, quality time together that has fun incorporated in it? So.
I was just thinking
where are you now? Where are you thinking?
Where are you now?
Where are you now?
I was thinking, who said that? Where are you now? Or something.
I feel like I'm in Ireland.
Ireland
or something.
I was thinking like Minnesota. That's where are you now?
Oh, I don't know. Somebody from Ireland or Minnesota, chime in. Let us know.
Boy, those are two different accents altogether.
They are.
And our credibility just tanked right there. Hey, I will say this. Speaking of, we have a global podcast. We do have folks that are listening for all around the world.
Yes.
And I noticed from our stats that there is a listener. So far, it seems like there's one in France.
Awesome.
And so I want to give a shout out to that. We have them from other parts of the globe.
Right.
But there's one that keeps popping up and has listened to every one of our podcasts. So I want to give a shout out right now.
Outstanding.
To whoever is listening from France. And if there's some way that you can email us and let us know who you are, if you're comfortable with that, we'd love to hear who you are. And
thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks
for listening.
And if you've listened that much, why aren't there more from France? Come on.
But so
we really appreciate it.
Because that truly does. It's on the other side of the world for us. So that's awesome. So yeah.
Shout out France. Thanks for listening.
France.
Hey, so I was going to say that what's interesting is that it's July going into August, and the first thing that popped to my brain, and I guess I'm hijacking a puzzle a little bit here, because I have a puzzle, and that is, kids start back to school here
soon,
real soon, and it's like, did we ever go to school in August? Did we start in August?
Yes.
We would have vacations,
but it was
in August.
Yes, but it was always the last week or the second to last week. It was never early in August. For my school, the fair week happened usually that first week in August, and then there'd be a week, and then
for those outside of if you're outside of it, culturally, a fair for us was very common.
County fair.
County fair, because we and where
shout out to Champaign County Fair, Urbana, Ohio. There you go.
Because kids would show their livestock or whatever, and then it's
4-H,
very farm centered but there are fairs.
We
that
grew
happen,
up in 4-H country though.
Yeah. So for us, your county fair
Yes.
was everyone participated, or a lot of people did, and
Yeah.
so that happened.
But that was always,
toward
and
the
it
end.
always happens the first week in August.
Mm-hmm.
It has forever been the first week in August. And so I can remember having the fair. I remember usually there was a week, and then we would go into school. So I feel like we did go back in August, but never that early. So it was usually like that last week or something like that, because I feel like we would barely have a week of school, and then you'd have Labor Day.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like a warm up, right? It was like,
Mhm.
okay, this week you're going to go 3 days. You get
Well,
Labor Day, so that was a 4-day week, and then you kind of like went back in.
I'm convinced, and we are talking fun, quality time today. So it's like I'm convinced, though, that I never went to school before Labor Day or after Memorial Day.
There you go. You stay in that headspace. You do it. You stay in that
And
headspace.
it could very well be because I was not a serious student.
Really? Yeah.
I was serious about social interaction.
He
I'll tell you that right now. And so
Now you're a serious student. If any of your grad students are out there listening, Dr. Mabry is very serious now. So
yeah. Oh yeah. I need to make sure I save face here a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of the students within the grad school, please stay diligent. And remember, when I talk about my poor academic career, it was definitely before the age of 18.
It was.
And so, before the age of 20 or 19 too, as well. So, okay, so.
But if you want to stay in that headspace,
yeah, it
of
could
not
be that
going,
I just wasn't
But we
prepared.
both know you did, because you literally. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Literally,
Traeger.
I know Chris Traeger. You grew up the county north of my county, and so
Yes.
I know that your school was in school, but like I can't remember the elementary time frame.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows? Maybe we did start school after Labor Day there. I don't remember
I didn't
that.
keep track of the holiday calendar.
I know
in
exactly.
elementary.
So
And I don't know that you did either. So.
All right.
Well,
All
okay.
right.
So I hijacked.
Are you done on the hijack there?
I have another puzzle, but I'm
Man.
just going to let it.
It's
ride
my turn. It's supposed to be me
Go ahead.
today.
You're
Well,
it
you
is.
just took it though.
Theresa Mabry. You are going to say that one.
No, but now the listeners are like,
Although
we've already had that.
My friends, Theresa and we have a problem, and our problem is that
we have a lot of problems.
We share the same brain. This is scary. Like, I'll be thinking.
The older we get to, man,
hey, we should do this or that.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, Theresa will come to me and say, you know what I'd like to do is this or that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the exact same thing that I had in mind.
Same.
Or you're thinking something, and I go, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking this. So, and it could be just because we've been together so long, and this is what happens in midlife marriage, is it after 28 years.
I know.
That
and we both, when the other person says it and shares it, the other one gets that sheepish grin on their face, and we're like, oh my gosh, that's
it happened to us last night.
It did. It happened last night. So yeah. Anyway.
Well,
that's funny.
Okay. So the puzzle. You have a puzzle for today. We should.
Well, technically, no. I'm going to call an audible and not do a puzzle, but I'm going to share another part of something that we encourage couples to have, which is to have some goals in front of you, to have some things that you're looking forward to. And when we say goals, it doesn't always have to mean like, you have a projected goal of doing, if you do this step, and this step, and then you meet the goal, right?
Yeah.
So when we say goals, we're also looking forward to things, having something in the future. That future can be a day, it could be a week, it could be a month, it could be a year, it could be 10 years, but always looking ahead as a couple, right?
Always.
So I'm going to be sharing one of those, and so this is what it is, and you're going to get all excited about it as well. But soon here, we're actually going to be keeping our granddaughter Sedona for the day. Because Alex and Katie are coming up on 5-year anniversary, celebrating 5 years together. And so they're going to be taking a little anniversary day date, maybe overnight. We don't know yet. Depends upon Sedona and how she's doing. But how exciting, right? That we're getting our our kind of first opportunity with that, and it just makes me think of in the future. I look forward to having several grandkids, and where we can have them all at once and just do something like like day camp at Grandpa and Grandma Mabry's or whatever, and we just have a bunch of like fun activities to do, and
I love it.
And maybe we get like matching T-shirts, and we just have, I don't know, just all kinds of stuff, like just to make it like a great time, that we can do, especially in the summertime, like to try and find a weekend or something and do that with grandkids. The
thing that stands out from everything that you said,
yes,
was matching T-shirts for the grandchildren, for us to wear.
Us and all of them. Yeah, like we would get, or we would have something like matching, like maybe, or maybe we would do like tie-dye, have that be like one of our activities we do, and everybody brings a T-shirt and we tie-dye, or something like that. But yeah, something where they would remember, as they wear that shirt or whatever it is, where it's like, hey, that was that time we got to do this. But yeah,
that's so funny. I wonder if anybody else out there does something that, like, what kind of special thing do you as a couple do with your grandchildren? Now, and let's keep it grandchildren for this question, because, and we know not everyone out there has grandchildren, but those that do, and put that, the best place to put it is two places, comments, or your platform that you are listening on may have a comments section, but most do not. There are very few. And we just picked one up that does it. But Facebook and YouTube. All of the podcasts are posted on YouTube, and we do an announcement on Facebook. So if you go to One Another Marriage for either one of those platforms, and in the comments, just share grandparent idea. What do you do for as a couple?
Yeah,
that's fun with your grandchildren, and
there
maybe give us some ideas. School us a little bit here.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
I know there are plenty of great ideas for children, and I feel like we did that as well with our children, and that'll be a great segue into
we tried. I don't know if they
time.
Remember it, but
we were always, and this is, I feel like we were always pretty intentional with quality time with our children, hanging out, and that you and I would do things together. There were dad dates and there were mom dates, but there were also times that it's us together, and that we would intentionally kind of be together, and we wanted our own children to have a good time, and so, and that is so to be, and vacations that we're going to talk about today connect with that well, but that intentionality with the most important relationships in your life. So this will kind of spill over into some parenting today as well, but we really want to, even though it'll hit on parenting, we really want to make sure that it always comes back to your relationship as a couple, as the primary relationship. And that's, we always say, one of the best things, parenting techniques, is a healthy marriage.
Sure.
So, we talk about how we are intentional together, and then your children can observe that, and then also you're benefiting from it as a couple. Quality time. Now, this comes from, so one of the reasons we're chatting about this today is because over the time that we've worked with couples, we've noticed a couple trends, and it's recently as well. It's you would think that for couples that are struggling, that are in crisis or have some major crisis, or they're struggling, it's like, okay, quality time is a no-brainer, that's not happening. And yes, that's the case. We've noticed, and that's one of the reasons we want to do this podcast topic today, is because we've really noticed that's one of the first things to go, or it's one of the things that suffers the most, is quality time, having fun together, doing memorable things together, planning for, looking forward to, and executing a good time, right? A date night, a weekend away, vacation. We also notice it with premarital couples,
Mm-hmm.
young couples, early married and premarital, who find themselves looking at us and saying, we just really haven't had a date recently because we're so busy.
Mm-hmm. We don't get to see each other as often, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what we're finding is that several of our couples that we have coached over the several past years, this definitely is a topic that continues to come up, and our answer is always, you must provide opportunity for you two to get away, go out together, do something, be very intentional. And that is always our prescriptive, so to say, is you must be intentional. We cannot come into your space and stand there and hold you accountable and say, you must get out of your house now, or you've got to go do this. Or, I mean, we've had lots of our quality time moments have taken place in the house as well. But David and Theresa cannot be present with you at all times for us to be like, come on, you got to keep doing this. So the best we can do is to just encourage, be very deliberate and be intentional. And if one of you is better at setting up the time, then that's fine. It doesn't, yes, both people, it would be nice to have both people take ownership of it, but a lot of times one person may be just better gifted at putting it together, and the other person really appreciates it, and there's valued time together. But we can't get upset that I'm always the one doing it, right? And if you do feel yourself getting upset about it, then is there enough encouragement or appreciation coming from the other partner? And that's where we challenge people as well. Like, if this isn't your gifting, but you still value the time, make sure you're being very appreciative with your words and actions to acknowledge, how much effort it takes. Because it does. It takes some effort. It takes intentionality. And it's not everybody's skill set, but by golly, you cannot just ignore each other or not choose to do anything like this for the rest of your marriage.
Communicate about what you enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what we're going to do. We're
All
going
right.
to play a little game, Theresa Mabry.
We're going to play a little game.
You ready for this?
Oh, man. Is this one of these? Okay, folks, this is one of those surprise, Theresa, I'm going to put you on the spot moments. Like, we're looking at each other right here, and David's got notes in front of him, and I do not. So
this is Stump Theresa. Stump the
Theresa.
wife.
All
okay,
right.
This is what I'm going to do.
All right.
I wrote down several shared experiences that you and I have had over the years.
Okay.
And some of them are vacations. Some of them were weekend getaways.
Okay.
Some of them were date nights, right?
Gotcha.
So I'm going to, I'll mention one, and and I'll chime in too. But what I want to hear...
Is this going to be like history? Do I have to give dates?
You
August
remember
4th,
so
1965.
much. Oh,
I
but
don't know.
honey.
I know.
Tell the people who here in this this union remembers things, the details better, you or myself.
Well, I do, but maybe not when I'm put on the spot surprise. I don't know.
You'll
But
remember
we'll see.
these. You'll remember
All
these
right.
because you know why?
Because I was there?
Because you were there.
Gosh. Okay.
All right. So here it goes. In no particular order. What do you... And I wrote these down because they're a few of my favorite things, right?
Okay. I'm about ready to break out in song.
I
on
know.
that
That's
one.
why
I know.
my goal, my friends, is to get Theresa to sing a song. And all I have to do is like say certain lines,
Yep.
and they'll trigger...
Everyone else along with me. Sound of Music, right?
Don't do it.
Julie Andrews. There
Yep.
she is. Maria Von Trapp.
These are a few of my favorite things.
Yep.
Here
There we
it
go.
goes.
Okay.
All right. So we took an anniversary cruise.
We did.
It was a 10-year anniversary, but we went in the 11th year. That's my memory of it. Teresa's giving me a look of like, no, I know this. Here are the facts I know.
Okay. What
And
do you
that
know?
is, I remember
Mm-hmm.
it was for our 10-year anniversary because I'm the one that surprised you with it.
Yes.
And I went through your mother because
Yes.
I knew that financially I couldn't do anything through our bank accounts because we've always had open with finances, and I
Right.
wasn't going to do
Well,
an
and at
extra
that-
credit card just
Right.
to hide things from you.
Right. And at that time, I was the one that was more hands-on
You were
checkbook
handling
and
the details.
writing details and
you
all
were
that
doing
stuff.
the details of it,
Yes.
and I was big picture.
So
and
yeah, you would not have been able to swing something like that and have
So
me
I-
not notice.
I called my favorite mother-in-law,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, "Hey, I'm going to surprise Theresa with a cruise, and
Mhm.
so can I work it through your account, and I'll just pay you back, blah, blah, blah." So
Mhm.
that's what we did, and we went on this cruise,
Mhm.
and what do you remember, or what was your favorite part of the cruise together?
Well, it's safe to say that this was our first cruise. We had never done a
Mhm.
cruise. And we actually went on the K-Love cruise. And
Mhm.
K-Love, the radio station, and it was their first cruise where they started to do these friends and family.
And K-Love is a Christian radio station, and
Mhm.
they played a lot of the artists that we
would listen
liked,
to.
the musicians
Yeah.
and the artists that we appreciated and
Right.
liked at the time. And so
And so you decided that would be an awesome surprise, an awesome gift. And it really was. And so we were actually on a cruise ship with all of these artists and speakers and comedians that we had watched, on a VCR or a DVD, or we had listened to on the radio or something like that. And so that was probably one of the best things was that there was someone performing that we enjoyed. There were multiple things throughout the day and in every evening. And we were also introduced to a couple of new people. Like I remember we had dinner and there was a comedian that was going to be
Mhm.
on that night,
Mhm.
and we were not familiar with this man, and
Mhm.
it was like, well, let's just, I don't know, we could go check it out. I mean, obviously we're on the ship, you have nowhere else to go, right? So
Yeah,
you're on the ship. And we went to that theater room and laughed so hard. I remember looking at you at one point and I was like, oh my gosh, if he doesn't stop, I think I'm going to
Oh, it
we
hurt.
were so it hurt. We were
laughed
so
hard.
full, and we laughed so hard. Oh my gosh.
And
so
that comedian,
the comedian is Jeff Allen.
Jeff Allen. Yeah.
And from that point, he has been one of our favorite comedians over the years, and we've gotten a couple of his DVDs and we watched them as a family and
And folks, we'd encourage you, look up Jeff Allen
up Jeff
on
Allen.
YouTube and
oh my
watch
gosh.
his stuff on marriage. He's actually since that cruise,
Right.
because that cruise we took that in
2004, 2003. 2003.
Yeah, we were
Gabe was
living
3.
in the East Mile
Yeah.
house, and
Gabe was 3.
yeah, so the kids were all
yeah.
young. But so Jeff Allen, 2003. So here we
Right.
are,
Yeah.
18 years later, and
He's been very purposeful over the last several years.
he's done many
of
more
doing-
marriage things. So
he-
look that
he'll
up.
open for a lot of marriage conferences and retreats and stuff like that. But Jeff Allen, and never would I ever have we could have just went, I don't know, we don't recognize this guy's name, but man, were we glad that we had went that night. And we did. We laughed so hard. Oh my gosh. That was a great time. So
All right.
that was
Well, very
one of
good.
that was one of the things I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great time, and there was a lot
Mhm.
going on that. But I really, we didn't have a lot of money, and
No,
we were,
didn't.
we've always kind of chosen a path where we didn't have a lot of money coming in because like full-time ministry, doing ministry stuff.
Sure.
But that was a treat for us.
Yeah, that was a
definitely, at the
huge treat.
time. And so, yeah, it was really cool to do.
And it was only it was a 4-day cruise or a 3-day cruise. It was very short because they actually they weren't sure how many people they would even get when they advertised it.
All I
Remember
remember is that it
And
was a little boat, and I
Yeah.
thought it was a big boat because we had never done a cruise before. And we got on this boat, and I thought, man, it was out of New Orleans.
Yeah.
And we got on, and I thought, honey, this is a huge boat. This
I
is
know.
incredible.
We were so excited.
I was so excited. And then we poured it
Bunch
into
of hill jacks from Ohio. We didn't know.
and we went to
Cozumel.
Cozumel. And when we poured it in, and then we got up in the morning and we came out to go.
We were going to do an excursion.
Do an excursion. So when you came out of the boat, I looked out across the pier right beside us.
Yes.
And I kept looking up and up and up and up. And this cruise ship next to us
like
was
Royal Caribbean or Carnival.
Dwarfing us.
I know.
Dwarfing
it was
us.
absolutely huge. And like, I remember that you and I we laughed. Then we also looked back at our ship and kind of like prayed, okay, help us make it back across the Gulf, because
I know, it was suddenly we're on a little dinghy.
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
But it was actually a big cruise boat or ship, whatever.
Yes.
But it was still
anyway.
It's still not the largest out there.
I know.
So
all right,
okay, how about this one? You surprised me.
Mm-hmm.
The last one I surprised you with. You surprised me in the last few years
mm-hmm.
with a last minute Airbnb night away
mm-hmm.
in we live in the central Ohio area.
We do.
We don't live in Columbus, but outside of Columbus, and you found in Columbus, Ohio, an Airbnb,
mm-hmm.
and you came and said, hey, we're going to do this. And this hasn't happened a lot in our marriage because, and I think it's because it's a little bit more challenge to surprise me with things. And
yeah.
But you did. You surprised me, and it was a really nice weekend away.
I did.
So,
but we also had we had children of a certain age at this point, because this has been within the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
No, 6 years. Alex was in the house, so yeah, might have been in the last 6 years. So we definitely had kids that I could
mm-hmm.
lay out the package of what was going to happen, and they were able to keep their mouths shut, and they
mm-hmm.
were able to go with the plan, and they were able to take care of themselves while we were gone. So all of that detail, I always had to check off a lot of boxes. So anyway.
Yeah, what do you remember about anything? What specific?
I remember that David is a person who likes control, and when he doesn't know what's happening, it's unsettling to him.
There could be a gentler way of saying that.
Oh my gosh. No, David is a person who likes control. There you go. So, but I remember that you were kind of sheepish about it a little bit, and you were like, okay, like what's going on? And you had some questions.
Trust issues.
You had some questions, but you did trust me. Like you, and I remember that we actually went. We had church that morning. You preached because you were still pastor at the church. You were still working. You were, on staff there. And then I took you and we went and ate. We
mm-hmm.
went and did that first, and you had some other questions and things. And then I surprised you with, this was where we were headed, and you were driving and I was just navigating, I think. And I said,
mm-hmm.
okay, turn here, turn here, turn here. And we ended up like down by, in downtown Columbus area, at a house that's been renovated into a like bed and breakfast.
Yeah, it was a nice community. It's a nice,
and it was a nice community, and yeah, we were literally just going to be one night and one full day, and so, yeah, and you were
mm-hmm.
really surprised. You were, because
it
was just nice to have. We needed that space because I forget what you were wrapped up in at that time. There was just a lot going on, and we just really hadn't had
mm-hmm.
a moment. So
I like that. I like the times that you have surprised me. I have, even though I do appreciate control and knowing what's going on, and
you just like to have a heads up,
a propensity for that. I do like a heads up, but I don't mind, and I do, because you have surprised me multiple times. But it's typically the other way around. I'm typically kind of surprising you with something, which is just the way it's worked out. Because I love coming up with creative, kind of fun ideas and
well, we've each
springing them on you.
We have each surprised each other for birthday party celebrations and things like that. But that's not necessarily just you and I. That's with other people, and that's doing certain things.
To that point, though, honey, I think it's good for a marriage for that's something that is shared. It's
Mhm.
special between us because that was you thought of. Like for instance, you surprised me on my 40th birthday
Mhm.
with an 80. No, I did the 80s theme for you. You
Yeah.
did a music
I
theme
did music.
because
Yeah.
I'm a huge
Through the
music fan through
generations.
the generations, and
Yeah.
you had everyone set up. So it was not to go on that tangent, but it was like that was special, and so that builds the
Right.
relationship because you're attentive to what I like
Yeah, it was
and
all
some of
about
the things that I
right.
really enjoy, and you
The
knew
different
that.
artists and
And it may
things.
seem to folks out there that it's like, well, that's a no-brainer. You should know what your spouse, but that's not always the case. We find
Right.
that some folks become so fixated upon themselves and their own
Mhm.
needs, their own
Right.
interest, that they don't pay attention to their spouse
Yeah.
and what they enjoy. And so I think some of those surprises help, because even with the Airbnb choice, you
Mhm.
knew when you were selecting that surprise,
Mhm.
you knew what I like and what I don't like, and
Preferences.
the preferences, and that was important that you
Yep.
you thought of that.
Yep.
Speaking of preferences, the next thing on my list is let's play a little trivia
So
for this one.
far, I'm passing the test.
You're doing a great job.
Okay, good.
I mean,
All right,
yeah.
here we go.
I thought you would though. I
Okay.
thought you would. Okay, here it goes. What what happens? What has happened typically every year on our anniversary that we used to rarely miss? And it just so happens to hit on our anniversary around that time. And we would even change anniversary plans or make sure we plan around this this big event that thousands, if not millions, of people watch.
Yeah, the NBA playoffs.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's a good job. I tried to throw enough clues because you were giving me the look like I can't stump
Well,
Theresa
I got
totally.
it as soon as I thought about it for a minute. You didn't have to give me all the people and all that stuff either. I had it. Yeah, the NBA playoffs.
So for us,
Yeah.
our anniversary is June 12th. You can send gifts to through gift cards. No, the June 12th is
Yeah,
our anniversary,
right.
and it just so happens that it's we're huge sports fans,
Mhm.
and we have in the past. It's
Mhm.
the last couple of years we've come off the wagon a little bit with NBA
Yeah, I am.
watching, but previously, especially being our early married life was through the 90s, and
Yep.
although we are not Chicago Bull fans by any means,
No.
a lot of good basketball was happening through the 90s. I know that dates us a little bit. That's been some time ago. But that's a great time to really get into basketball as a couple. Previous to that, you were raised in a basketball family,
Mhm.
and
Right.
so and I was just adopted into that. But the memory I have down is that our shared quality time
Yeah.
was actually the fact that both of us really enjoy sports,
Right.
and we really enjoyed the NBA Finals. And I remember going on anniversary trips to bed and breakfast, and a qualifier was making sure there was a working TV, and it's like some couples are like, let's go have a romantic dinner and then go back to the room and
I
light
know.
candles and take advantage of a jacuzzi or whatever. It was like
Right.
have this romantic and intimate time.
Right.
And you and I are like, well, what's romantic and intimate for us is let's turn on the
I know. We
NBA
did.
Finals.
And you know what was even better about that one place that we stayed at? It was near our house, number one, so you don't even have to go that far away.
Mm-hmm.
It was very intentional, number two, to just choose that location just for just quick travel there. We wanted to try and spend as much time away,
Yeah.
but since we were the only people in that one, the extra space that they had up there. Remember they had that mini fridge and it was all stocked and they were like, yeah, you can have everything. And so like you and I are more like, where are the cheese and crackers? And like we were piling on like,
We're living
I guess,
large.
we were living large, but we were having a great time because we were watching the game and we were eating somebody else's, provided food. I mean, obviously that's part of our pay.
That's what
we're
we're
paying
for. Yeah.
to stay there, and so you're doing that. But I don't know. It just that's us.
Super romantic.
That is us. I know. Like I said, I prefaced at the summary or the episode, I said our kind of fun may not be
Yeah.
your kind of fun,
That's right.
but you've got to plan for fun. Okay, go ahead.
Speaking of which,
All right.
the next thing I have on the list
Next.
is one of my favorite vacation experiences,
Mm-hmm.
which is a more recent one. You and I took a Hall of Fame vacation.
We did.
And so what was entailed in this is we took a trip around to, we'd already connected with a couple of Hall of Fames, but we had not been to a couple together. So we drove to the Baseball Hall of Fame. We went to the Basketball Hall of Fame, the Naismith. So Cooperstown, New York is where Baseball Hall of Fame is. And then in Springfield, Massachusetts is where the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame is. And then we happened to stumble upon or take advantage of in Rhode Island, there is the Tennis Hall of Fame.
Yes.
So we dropped by there.
Right.
And then we dropped through New York City.
We went into New York City specifically to go see the 9/11 Memorial.
Because we had not been there.
The last time we had been in New York City, it was beginning to be built. It was on the verge, but we had not been there since. So specifically, and that is what we chose to do. We parked. We actually parked over in New Jersey, and then rode the transportation back over to get us dropped off right there at the World Trade Center.
And then we went down to Washington, D.C., and specifically there, we really wanted to see the Museum of the Bible, which is a fabulous experience. If anyone, if you have an opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. and go to the Museum of the Bible, we really loved it and enjoyed it. Especially we're Bible nerds, and so we really enjoyed that. And then came around.
So the last two weren't technically like Hall of Fames, but they definitely were large ticket items that you're checking off, right?
And it was an intentional trip all the way around. So the question for you, Theresa, is what was your most memorable or favorite thing? What comes to mind is the thing you enjoyed the most about that Hall of Fame vacation?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, I think once again, it was a trip that we, you had a couple of spots that you were like, hey, I'd really like to go see this and this. And then we started to kind of piece it together. And I really wanted to drop in. I thought the Museum of the Bible would be cool as well. Plus, I wanted to go to the 9/11 because there was someone from my hometown community and from my high school that she was one of the flight attendants on one of the flights. And so her name is there on the memorial. And I wanted to go see that. And then just I think the combination of we did a few Airbnbs, we did a couple of hotels. We tried to really mesh in preferences for both of us. And then we did take a day trip and we went into Boston. Now, while it wasn't a Hall of Fame, we also we made sure in Boston, we are not Boston Red Sox fans by any means, but we did go and we specifically took a tour of the stadium. And that was really cool because it's history and it's sports history. And I think you and I both nerd out. So that was actually a more fun experience than what I think either of us, because once again, we're not Red Sox fans, but man, you just can't pass it up.
Well,
but the crazy
as a sports fan, being able to go to Fenway, it was a neat thing, and I think we could kind of suspend our loyalties enough to go there and enjoy the nostalgia.
And I think one of the things I enjoyed was that we started at the Baseball Hall of Fame, which was wonderful, great. Would highly recommend go to Cooperstown. And because we had already walked around and absorbed all that baseball history, and then to go to Boston and to go to Fenway after that, and because, like I said, like I grew up in a family, we were not Red Sox fans, but my dad would always talk about Ted Williams. And so they actually have a seat like out in the outfield that's a different color because that's how far he had hit the ball, and no one has been, and like, so that brought back a lot of nostalgia for me because Dad would always talk about Ted Williams, because he was just a really good athlete. And so that really ended up being one of my favorite parts of it. So, yeah.
Well, let's do just one more. But first, I wanted to highlight a quality time together, because I think many couples out there, especially young couples with children, face.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any memory of, or what specific memory
Mm-hmm.
of early date nights? Because we were pretty intentional with date nights early in our marriage when the children were young, and where we'd have an early date night with a babysitter. And now we benefited from the fact that I had served as a youth pastor,
Right.
and we had babysitters everywhere. So shout out to
all the former
all of the
teens that we had babysit.
The Michelles, the Andreas, the DeVitas, and I'm going to leave someone out because we had so many great, and they're all old like us now, but they were teens at the time, and they watched our children, and we really appreciated it. So any date night that we did when we were poor with children.
Yeah, well, I think, let me go back, because some of those days were in Alliance, and then some were in Springfield. And I feel like a couple of the ones, like in Alliance, why am I remembering, we actually just, went to the park, and I think we had just, a picnic, kind of like we took our food.
Yeah.
And we just had, a picnic. But it was without the kids, so it was just intentional time to be together. And sometimes that happened in the middle of the day, because sometimes it was easier. Our kids always took a nap, and so sometimes it was easier to have someone come during that time. And so doing that. I don't know. I'm in Springfield. I'm trying to remember something. So, one time I think we just drove. We drove to the next city over, and they had a Barnes and Noble, and we walked around Barnes and Noble. So it didn't cost us anything to go in there. You sometimes had your section you wanted to go look at. I would look at other things, and then we'd come back together. And we just walked around and enjoyed. And we walked out, and we never purchased a book or anything, but we had a great time, just kind of sitting and finding some of the comfy chairs. So,
yeah. And it's, I think, lesson learned with that, folks. If you need to hear from us that you don't have to spend a lot of money on dates, be creative, be innovative, and also be who you are.
Right.
Like, we're naming things that really it was like what David and Theresa enjoy, right? But if you two discuss, and don't be afraid to share what you want and what you request, and then know your partner and know them well.
Right.
The last one I have on here is an important vacation for our family, and I think you and I have enjoyed this, and that is, we'll just call it Mohican.
Yeah.
Mohican is a campground in the north central Ohio, and we would go camping every year with several other friends.
Yes.
And our kids learned to love this. It was an annual trip for us. It was an annual for our children. They loved it. And then we also were able to hang around with friends. They were able to hang out with their friends. But we also, I wanted to bring this one up as well to discuss an intentionality with working through connecting with one another during those type of vacations, because that has been a point of discussion with the two of us, where we've gone on that and come back and kind of share with one another that while we love hanging out with friends and we love seeing our kids, although we had to be intentional about pulling them in and seeing them, we found it a challenge at times, and we worked on this to actually spend time just the two of us. And so I'll answer this first and then hand it over to you. I mean, you share whatever, like your favorite or your memories and thoughts. But I wanted to make sure we get this one out.
Well, let's be clear too that we went with, when you say we went with some friends, this wasn't just one or two families camping together. This at times was up to almost 15, 18 families
Multiple
camping
families
together. And we were at a campground. So you're either in tents or you had a camper or something like that. So proximity of space within everybody was very close.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that being said, is that we would much of the weekend, the long weekend, was spending with other people.
Yes.
And that's the idea, because you're folks
Sometimes
that you
the men
wouldn't
were with
always,
men, women with women, couples, kids, whatever.
You wouldn't always see these same families on a regular basis outside of Mohican. So it was an important time. But to my point, you and I found ourselves going on the weekend and not seeing a lot of each other,
Right.
not having that quality time. So in the more recent years that we had this traditional vacation, we were more intentional as a result. There was a little, and I'll just be candid with folks out there, we had a little conflict with one another, or kind of like discomfort with one, like, man, we just hate that we didn't see each other, and it caused tension between us. And then we had to come back around and say, you know what, let's be more intentional. And so my memory is that the more recent years since we've walked through that, we were more intentional on taking walks together, sitting by the fire together, not neglecting other people, but saying, you know what, we also need to value this relationship with the two of us, not just kind of, even though we see each other at home, we really needed to enjoy or take advantage of the Mohican time for us as well. Right?
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, we had to be purposeful with that. And sometimes it was just making sure that maybe our family just had dinner on their own, instead of because sometimes, you may have dinner with other families, or people would come and they'd come to your fire and sit and eat, which was always fun to have. But at the same time, there were points where we needed to be a little bit more intentional with that. But usually taking a walk together, or being purposeful about going on a hike or something like that, that's what you and I would usually choose to do. And then, and it wasn't like it took a long time, maybe just an hour, but it was very purposeful in pulling away just so you and I could have that time together. Because we truly loved hanging out with others, but we also wanted to make sure that that if other couples needed that we were saying, yeah, go. You need to go. It's important. It's important for your marriage. So, yeah.
So, the summary of our time together on this podcast today, what are some good takeaways for us, for our couples out there, and for the one another couples? Some takeaways about your quality time would be what?
Well, be intentional, find time, and we shared a lot of different things. And some, I'm glad you brought up the ones early on, with kids and different things. You just have to just make it clear that your marriage is a priority. And so I think that's a big takeaway. Be intentional, make sure your marriage is a priority. Make sure those regular date nights, or a getaway or whatever it is, you're within your means. By no means, we're not saying hey, just go rack up the bills. I mean, I know you prefaced it by saying we've never made a ton of money. And so what we have done, we've figured out a way so that, we're not saddled with a lot of debt, which causes other, issues. So
the amount of money spent is not an indicator about
Absolutely
the
not.
relational connection and value with one another. In
Absolutely
fact,
not.
the less expensive experiences that we've had have been some of the most memorable.
Yeah.
So that's a
Our
huge.
Barnes and Noble dates, that happened several times.
I'm glad that's come up, because I think many couples out there that we've worked with, there's that pressure from culture to spend, have an expensive vacation to get the best. And if you don't, your kids will be miserable. You're not enjoying life, and it's no, don't mortgage your future for quality time. You can have quality time without that. So
and I think another two other quick things would be if it's something that both of you are aware of and you're planning for, each person needs to have input. And then the second thing would be don't be afraid to have some of those like surprise moments like we shared. Just make sure that you're really thinking through the preferences of both of you.
Yep.
Yep.
Very good. Well, hey, we're so glad you all joined us today. And our verse of the week is going to be out of Hebrews chapter 13, verse 4. And it says, "Give honor to marriage and remain faithful to one another in marriage." Thank you for joining us. And if you have found value in this podcast, please subscribe, like it, rate it, review.
Rate, review.
Do whatever, like your platform. Most of you are listening on an Apple, iTunes, or podcast.
We appreciate the reviews that are on there.
We do appreciate that.
We would like some more.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you too. If you have questions or comments, best place to leave those would be through our YouTube channel or on Facebook, where we post about each podcast and the announce it. You can go on there. And I know it's an extra step for many of you. You've listened to this maybe through Apple, and then you have to toggle over to our social media, but we do appreciate it, and we would love to have that feedback. The most important thing that you can do is to share it with somebody else.
Right.
You know, our mission is to strengthen couples, as many as possible. And you can be on mission with us. So if you find value in this, maybe you're a weekly listener. If you find value, share it. Email it, text it, through social media. Find someone specific and say, "Hey, why don't you listen to this podcast?" And we'd appreciate it if you do it, just so we can all help as many as possible. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.